So I'm going to start off with the stocks. So I'm sure like it's not a surprise that as soon as all of this Iraq war stuff started, I mean Iran, not Iraq. It's funny how history is repeating itself so closely that it feels like it's still Iraq, but it's not. It's Iran. We're on to a different bad guy. I put bad guy in quotes because you know how that is. So we're going to take a moment to look at the stocks of the war profiteers after the news broke. So I'm going to switch you over to the browser. So we're going to start with Lockheed Martin. That's obviously one of the most well-known ones. So here we are. Let's look at the 1 month. Here we are through December. The stocks are pretty low. And then boom, January 2nd, January 3rd, it went up. So it was down at $389 per stock, and then it jumped up to $413. Here's this 5-day. Let's look at this 6-day mark. So even at the 6 months, so in this chart, we're looking at September, October, November from last year all the way through January. And when you look at Lockheed Martin stocks throughout the latter half of last year, they're all under 400. And then as soon as January hit, as soon as the news hit, there's a very, very obvious spike. And here's within like the last 24 hours. But then there's that spike again. So we're going to move over to Boeing. First thing I'm going to do is show you guys all of the stocks, and then we're going to break down what it means. And we're going to look at the war profiteer stocks, and then we're going to look at the oil profiteer stocks. Two different aspects of of our corporation issues going on. So next up is Boeing. Here's their 5-day. So Boeing has a lot more in their business portfolio. It's not just war stuff. So over here, we see that there was some stuff like increase in their stocks in the latter half of last year, and then it dipped down, and then it dipped down, and then within the last 5 days, it has gone up again. So because Boeing has a lot more in their business portfolio besides missiles and rockets. They have airplanes, telecommunications, equipment, satellites. There isn't a dramatic difference like Lockheed Martin has. See, but they're still profiteering, right? Like they're still part of this. Next up is BAE Systems. So what's interesting about this one that I wanted to, I never switched you guys to the browser. Sorry. What's interesting about BAE Systems is that, it's a British multinational defense, security, and aerospace company. So this isn't an American company. This is British company. But the reason why I wanted to bring this one up is to show you global capitalism, how like it's not just the United States warmongering capitalists benefiting off of this. It's also worldwide. So I'm going to switch you back over to the browser. So now I'm sure it's not BAE. It smells like BAE, but BAE Systems, not BAE Systems. But British multinational defense, security, and aerospace company. So here we see within the last 6 months and the later half of last year and 2019's last quarter, they were doing okay, and then it went up, and then like over here it spikes. So we can see in the last 5 days how there was a spike on December 31st, but then it just kept going up, and then there was more of a spike in January. So this is $30 for US. Oh, excuse me. But for British, that's a lot more, right? When you consider like the conversion from US to, are they still using euro? I don't even know what they're using anymore. Britain hasn't made up their mind. But I'm sure they will soon, given that they've, voted to the right this past election. But anyway, I'm not going to go into British politics, but I did want to show you how it's not just US based corporations benefiting off this. This is also a defense contractor, and they are also, making their money off of our war in quotes. All right, so we're going to go on to the next one. Raytheon Company. So Raytheon is a major U.S. defense contractor and industrial corporation with core manufacturing concentrations in weapons and military and commercial electronics. So we're going to look at the last 6 months. So as you see in 2019's last quarter, they were kind of low. And then as there was a buildup to January 3rd. And then when we look at the last 5 days, like there's a very, very clear spike in stocks after after news broke that we killed the bad guy. Sorry, I have a really hard time saying that with like a straight face, because I mean it's very clearly propaganda. It's very clearly a rehashing of all the other wars that we've done before. Wars, I'll put that in quotes again, just to make sure you're on the same page with me. But it's just such bullshit. Like it's not. Like there's just like this weird cognitive dissonance, and I've seen a lot of my liberal friends be like, oh no, this bad guy, like they're just like buying into it. And I mean, of course, the people on the far right, like they're butt deep in it, right? So it's been really interesting watching some of my more liberal centrist friends figuring out what's going on with this war, what's next, what does that mean for us? And then over to the left, like all my leftist friends, including myself, we're like having like a mental breakdown, because it's it's just another profiteer scam. Like it's just another profiting scam. Like that's all it is. I still have some more people who are profiting, like whose stocks clearly shot up. So, and Northrop Grumman. So if you guys aren't familiar with Northrop Grumman Corporation is an American global aerospace and defense technology company with over 85,000 employees and an annual revenue in excess of $30 billion. How much you want to bet they're not taxed? It's one of the world's largest weapons manufacturer and military technology providers. So let's look at the last 6 months. The last 6 months and the last quarter, they were very jumbled. So very volatile. Volatile is the word I'm looking for. And then they were very, very low, and then boom, it sprang up. Let's look at the last 5 days. So in January, so let's look at January 2nd. Their stock was $375, and then it bumped up to $374. That doesn't seem like a big jump, but if you look at their lowest from December, it was like $347. Now with stocks are weird. Stocks are like gambling, more or less. So there are like small increments where it's like, well, Sam, it only went up $5. Wow, that was a big stock increase. It's like, well, you have to keep in mind how many stocks they have, right? So if you have 100 stocks and it goes up $5, right? So then you have that much extra. If you have like 20,000 stocks and each of them go up $5, then you have that much more profit. So we're looking at one stock, but you have to keep in mind that the ruling class, the elites who own stock and the companies that own the stock, it's multiple stocks. It's a shit ton of stocks. So it doesn't seem like a big deal that it's going up from like, $3, $4, $5, $10. The $100 ones like Lockheed Martin, that was kind of, crazy. But you have to keep that in mind, right? So, okay, so we have one more war profiteer, General Dynamics. General Dynamics Corporation is an American aerospace and defense corporation. As of 2019, it was the 5th largest defense contractor in the United States and the 6th largest in the world by sales. The company ranked number 92 in the 2019 Fortune 500 list of the largest United States corporations by total revenue. Duh. So here's the last 6 months. Actually, this one's pretty interesting because, in the last 6 months, their stock was doing pretty well. It kind of nosedived in November, did well in January, and then did well in December, and then kind of leveled out in January. But regardless of that, if you do a microcosm on like the last 5 days, we have December 30th, 31st, January 2nd, 1st, 2nd. There is a very clear jump from December to January. So what does all of this mean? I kind of went in and explained here and there about like stocks and what it, like a, even though it jumps $5, that it's still a big deal because, all the stocks. But what does it mean in terms of us? In terms of us as, United States citizens and people, I won't use the word citizens because there's people here who are trying to be American or like trying to be part of this country, and like it's not, that's like a whole other immigration issue thing. But so what it means to us is that basically they're profiting off our suffering. Who's going to be sent to war? Right? Who is going to be at the front lines of this? It's not going to be the top 1%. It's not going to be the top 1%'s kids. It's not going to be the top 5. It's not going to be the top 10%'s kids or them. It's going to be the bottom 99%. And more specifically, it's going to be the children of those who are in poverty. Why? Because families who are in poverty lack access to healthcare, lack access to education, lack access to, paychecks, right? So our military industrial complex has set things up in a manner that's like, okay, you can't afford healthcare, you can't afford education. You don't really know what to do for a living. So if you come join us, we'll give you a paycheck. It really, it's like sort of an entrapment for 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And then on top of that, they raised the smoking age to 21. So, you have all of these, liberties, I put those in quotes again, on what you can have. And, when you turn 21, that's when you can smoke. That's when you can drink. But, you can start paying taxes at 16 and you can go die at 18 in a war that has nothing to do with anything. All it has to do with is a bottom line.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.